Chetty, COO at Property Point and Entrepreneurship to the Point. It's Global Entrepreneurship Week, and we are taking the time out to speak to some entrepreneurs that are part of our Property Point program. Of course, Global Entrepreneurship Week is part of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, and we are live streaming from sunny South Africa. So welcome to everyone that is on the call this morning, and really looking forward to our conversation today with some really great entrepreneurs. So, Entrepreneurship to the Point is a platform that informs, equips, and inspires entrepreneurs. And through the platform, we've been able to share relevant information during a difficult period, I think, in the world, and not only South Africa. We're coming out of this global pandemic that has really crippled us in terms of economic activity. And I think we are all feeling the challenges associated with the pandemic, and we are trying to adjust, we're trying to pivot and cope, with the difficulties that the pandemic brings to us. During this time, as entrepreneurs watching the stream today, I'm sure you'll realize that it's been difficult. You have gone through challenges of how to think about running your business, potential stoppages in your business as a result of hard lockdowns. And in some cases, unfortunately, small businesses have ceased to exist as a result of not being able to earn revenue. So it's been an exceptionally difficult time. I think other businesses who were, probably a little bit more prepared for the pandemic, in the case of having additional cash flow to tide them over during this difficult period, have had the opportunity to perhaps look at other opportunities in the market to try and trade and start to grow their business. But I think the sentiment has certainly been that we need to start thinking about things differently. How we conduct business, how we engage with each other as human beings during this time. I think if there's one thing that we've learned is the importance of compassion and the importance of relationships. And I think as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to look at it from the context of your customers that you had in place, even prior to the pandemic. How you are able to shift some of your offerings and your value proposition to be able to meet the needs of your customers so that you can still remain to be relevant in the market. So I think it's been an exceptionally difficult time, and I think during Global Entrepreneurship Week, we really want to acknowledge entrepreneurs out there who have been going through the most in their businesses, and almost take a bit of time to reflect and speak to some entrepreneurs who have gone through these difficult times, but have also found the opportunity to create some success. And I think it said, that we shouldn't be wasting a good crisis. Let's always try and find the opportunities that come out of that. So today I'm joined by two entrepreneurs who are on our program at Property Point in South Africa. So firstly, Vera Shaba, who is the CEO of Green Design. So welcome, Vera.
Thank you.
And Arthur Wade Anderson,
That's
who
right.
is the CEO of Green Crete.
Correct.
So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. I think, Vera, we're going to start with you just to do a brief introduction of yourself and Green Design, and then we'll move over to Arthur.
Okay, thank you very much, Desigan, and thank you so much to Entrepreneurship to the Point. I love these sessions because we really get to unpack some really good things. So I am Vera Shaba, CEO of Green Design, and the why behind our business is really that Africa is the most vulnerable continent when it comes to climate change. And buildings contribute to that. About 40% of the emissions that come from buildings. And so what we do as an engineering consulting firm is we specialize in green buildings, so looking at energy efficiency, water efficiency, and waste, and seeing how we can change that, not only in South Africa, but also across the continent.
Thank you so much.
On our side, it's very simple. Like I said, connecting the dots or connecting the blocks. For us, it's very simple in terms of what do we do in terms of getting waste streams in the hands of people that can do something with it, create a product, and then in the end, get young people to be involved in it and get some economic benefit out of it. And like I said, to simplify green building is very important. Many people want to get involved, but they cannot because they don't know where to start. So we're the starting block. We're one of the guys that come in and say, well, this is where you can and you can implement much better, and this is how you can do it. And we rely on people like Vera to put us into the right conversations, because once that happens, the magic happens. Because then people are able to connect all of those pieces, and we are able to bring our product to the fore.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important, guys, just given the context of the world in which we are in now. Areas such as green, such as sustainability, have really been accentuated during this pandemic. And it's really things that we should have been doing, prior to the pandemic, but are not often seen as being integral to business. And I think certainly with the pandemic, it started to accentuate a lot of these aspects. And I think many of us are sitting now and kind of looking at how do we chart the way forward and where are the opportunities? And it's specifically around these areas that we need to be focusing our attention. So I think it's really great the type of work that you guys are doing, and certainly it comes at no better time, I think, in the history of the world for us to be able to focus on this. So let's maybe take a step back prior to the pandemic, and just as the news of hard lockdowns were announced, a very difficult period for all of us. I think we didn't know what to expect, how to react. So maybe just take us through, and we'll start with you, Vera, just in terms of some of your considerations during that point, and what were some of the challenges that you were facing during that time period?
Yeah, so Green Design is actually turning 5 next year. And so this was our 4th year of operations. And I spoke a little bit earlier, but like unprecedented, that word started to creep into different things. And that really is what it was. It was so unprecedented. Like if someone is an MBA student, I don't even think that they would have predicted this kind of thing. Like really a pandemic in our lifetime, sweeping the whole world, coming from, one country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
At the same time.
no one ever thinks about these things. And I think that as an entrepreneur, what was interesting is kind of twofold. And I'd say the one is that 2020 is the year that we're supposed to do climate action. So 2015, the Paris Agreement was signed. By 2020, countries had to say, this is our climate action plan. Unfortunately, in a sense, it took a pandemic to get us to the point of doing a lot of green initiatives. I mean, for the first time, the planet actually breathed. And then that was very, very interesting. And obviously, this just accelerated the digital transition, but it also accelerated the green transition. So, on the one hand, we actually got a little bit more projects during this time. And I think, like how you said, you shouldn't waste a good crisis. And that's exactly what happened, in the sense of now suddenly you could speak to people from all over the world. And there was no excuse, because it's now like, I ended up speaking to people from the UK, from Germany, from Switzerland. I decided to just start a series by myself because I was like, I'm so bored that no one is speaking about green at this point. And I started a series, and that ended up leading me to be asked by the World Green Building Council to serve in their team. Right. So that's the kind of stuff that happened, because the world suddenly became so small. But I would say that's what happened on the one side, but on the other side, it really was like trauma, and it really was like grief. So the 5 stages of grief, in terms of denial, and then anger, and then bargaining, and then depression, and then acceptance. And I think that we're at this point now of just acceptance. We know that things have changed. And I think for me, I went through that stage as well. I had all of those stages. The bargaining was like, do I really have to do this business? Do I really? There was a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
Bargaining with clients to pay you during a pandemic. Like there was a lot going on. But I think that if an entrepreneur can make it this year, then they know how to pivot, because everyone pivoted.
Yeah.
And that means that you probably can make it. Like I feel like Green Design can make it the next 5 years or the next 500 years at this point, because it was very hectic. Yeah.
I like the expression you used, that the planet was able to breathe.
Yeah.
And I think we saw it, on Facebook posts, pictures of Venice, and suddenly how the planet started to change because there was less activity. People were indoors. It just seemed like there was a bit of a renewal in a sense. And really fascinating to see. So, Arthur, from your side, what were some of the things that were going through your mind, when lockdown hit, and suddenly you realized, okay, things are not going to be the same. So, what are the considerations that you went through during that time?
So I went from Starship Enterprise to Discovery. So I understand in our market we live on the cusp, because we're constantly trying to pursue the things that are new, that no one's into, and to try to introduce that to the market. But what I realized, the first 2 words I said was, oh no. Like most people. I said, oh no, but it didn't stop us, because like you just said, what's What's the next steps?
Yeah.
Pivot
Yeah.
or pause.
Yes.
We're in this
Yes.
world of perpetual reinvention.
Yeah.
What do we do next as an organization? Because were we ready? And then I decided, you know what? Instead of pivoting and becoming a master entrepreneur, I thought, do something different. Because what happened was, during the time that we were doing all of these inventions, as you know, we built product.
Yeah.
We never had the opportunity to sit down and
Right.
actually look back and see what is it that was on the task list that we never addressed because the time wasn't right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it gave us the opportunity to sit back for a moment while everybody was going into a panic, to actually go to the task list and see what didn't we address and how can we use that now
Right.
to move forward into the future. And so, yes, it was a hard lesson for everybody who didn't have it in fine print, pandemic is coming. But for us, it was such a blessing for our business. So we got the positive out of it by getting the time set aside to actually address the needs or shortfalls that we had in our business.
Yeah, I think that was really, I think, one of the saving graces in a sense, because as you said, typically we don't get this the time to sit, reflect, strategize. And I think for most organizations that had the ability to do that, we're now seeing some of that implementation in a sense, or some work towards developing new products and new offerings, and finding ways to be able to penetrate certain areas of the market that seemingly before were very difficult, or where potential clients were not really thinking about it as they should have been. I think we know we have the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and what that entails, and kind of everyone refers to them in a very distant kind of way. And I think during this period, here again, it kind of illuminated these challenges in the world. And how do we almost set a different path now to solving them? So I think it was great that you had the opportunity to reflect and to be able to plan. But I think let's direct the conversation now to some of those inventions and some of those different elements to your offering that you were able to craft and to work on during this period. Sure. So Veri, let's start with you.
Okay, so I think on my side, the internet really saved a lot of people. And I think that what I loved and what we were able to now do is I've always wanted to do training and webinars and really like speaking to people around green and the green economy and green buildings. And so I was able to reach out to some of these councils from across the continent. And we actually just started to have more webinars and more training. And that's just a service offering that has actually just kept on growing. So right now we're actually doing a UNDP training course to be able to train the trainer and to keep doing these things and actually like getting people to understand green more. Because I think what that showed me is that the knowledge of green and green economy cannot just stay with me or my company. It actually, we have such a long way to go. And this was an opportunity to just, as Arthur said, just pause and reflect and go back to some of those dreams you have, but you can't because you're always on site and you're always busy and you're always doing drawings and you're always. But now it was suddenly a moment where we have more of an online presence now. Even the website, like I had no website properly until like this moment because now everything is online. So better online presence, more conversations. It actually was a very good time in that perspective. In terms of just putting our market or getting our brand really positioned in the market.
So from a psyche perspective, I think it's as you mentioned earlier on, you kind of went through the 5 stages of grief, and eventually you realized, okay, this is here to stay. It's either I adapt or I die, in a sense, and then kind of looking at those specific opportunities, whether it's around digital and trying to be able to connect with the rest of the world because everyone was on the same platform. So training became an important aspect for you. Okay. So what were some of the other things within your business that you started to now focus on and perhaps start to implement with some of your other clients?
So some of the other things I'd say, one of it is actually internally. So I managed to structure a team because you learn how to manage a team better when now they're suddenly remote. Now you suddenly have to figure out structures for them because you have uncertainty as the founder of the business, but you don't want that uncertainty to transfer down to your team.
Yes.
So now you build structures in place, and really it's that bit that internally was very good for us. And then just in terms of our clients, everything was a little bit faster now because when you're doing design coordination, you're suddenly doing it on Revit and everyone is on Revit and you're just doing the design coordination immediately on that. Like, so
Right.
it's 3D software.
Right.
Because now you can't meet with this big piece of paper on the table and everyone's drawing, no, this is clashing. Like, you can't do that anymore. So you now suddenly have to like round robin your drawings and everyone has a look and make sure that it works. And it actually happened faster. So that's something that we did with our clients that just made the process faster, more accurate.
Okay, so from a timeline and in efficiency
Exactly.
perspective,
Yeah.
you've seen some benefit out of that.
Exactly. And I know this is the last random one because I know you want to go to Arthur, but one thing that I absolutely loved from this as well was just the scheduling. So like we created something on our website so that people can book a time because now it's not, you don't have a meeting and then you have an hour to drive, then a meeting, an hour to drive. You can back to back your meetings.
Right.
And so it's now easier for clients to just book a time and immediately, like there was just a lot of automation in workflow and work processes. I think that's what really came from that.
Okay. And then, just from your client's perspective, how did
Yeah.
they react to this change and different way of working? I mean, was it easy for them to adapt, or did they have their own challenges? Because typically you would deal with larger corporate organizations. As a small business, you are smaller, you're a bit more nimble, you're flexible to be able to adapt. But how are your customers reacting to this change now suddenly?
Yeah, I feel like our customers went through the same stages of grief. Like they just didn't show it, but I feel like our clients really went through that as well. But I think the main thing is in the first few weeks there was a pause on spending for almost all of our clients. So there was just the pause, and they were like, "We're not on site. Like we're not gonna spend because we don't know when this is over."
Yes.
And so there was that kind of pause, and then eventually, I think there was a moment, I can't remember when it was, but there was just a moment where they were like, you know what, we just need to keep going. And then I think that's at that point that our clients kind of also adapted as much as we had to do in terms of being online. And I think that most clients actually preferred it, to be honest, because now they're working from home and now they're managing their own time, and and also now you can't say I'm in another meeting or I'm traveling or sorry, like no, you know that someone's at home. So I think that really the back-to-backs really started to happen because they know that all you have to do is log out, log in. You don't have to do nothing else, like no parking tickets. And I think that I think there was a lot of back-to-back meetings now, and also meetings that would happen at 5 or 6 because people know, like, they would really squash them in. So
I'd like to believe that the level of productivity increased just given that people were sitting in front of their computers for like 10 to 12 straight hours in meetings. But I think it's certainly a lot of people started to get used to that pace of working. And I know some of the businesses that we work with and some of our clients as well, kind of got into it eventually. and then I think it was kind of, okay, we need some level of normality now. We kind of know what a normal workday looks like. Let's try and get back to some sort of normality, while we're working from home. So certainly, I think it's a lot of adaptation.
Yeah.
So Arthur, from your side, I know Greencrete is an innovative organization. You guys are always looking to do things differently and find those sort of peculiar opportunities in the market.
Yeah.
So what were some of the innovations that you guys were able to accomplish during this period? You mentioned you had a long task list of items. How many of those items did you get to, and what did you eventually start to implement?
The first thing is that there's a common thread in the business that before anything else, it's people before production or profit. Right? Whatever we do. And the one thing that we needed to focus on was people. And the people are on three fences or behind three fences. It's the internal organization, and that being the leadership. And then there's the people that are actually doing the work, whether in a factory or in a construction environment. And then the people who are actually our clients that also dictate how things must go at times, right? So we decided to start there. And the first thing that we did in terms of the people aspect is protect our people. Yeah. Because many people just let people go because there was no money, there was no income coming in, so they had to cut people. And for us, that was a no-go. We decided that as a collective, even if we didn't get any of these grants that were out there, we decided we're going to ring fence, put a fence around our team, and see what we could do collectively to protect ourselves. And in doing that, we protected the mindsets of our people. So no one would go into a state of depression, would have unnecessary concerns, because a lot of people working construction sites they don't live close to these opportunities. They have families in Mpumalanga, KZN, and elsewhere. So that was the one thing that we needed to start with, was to protect our people. The second part then was the outlook onto the next side of the fence, which was really, what are we doing in terms of when we go to sites, if the sites were to open up, what would we do differently? And how would we be seen or portrayed in those spaces? And there again, we need to market ourselves differently.
Yes.
Right? Because now we had the time. I mean, in the construction industry, construction companies or manufacturing companies don't brand sexy. Vera just said it was the time for the internet to introduce itself, right? So as I said, we operate on the cusp. So from the internet perspective, we decided that we need to give everybody access to some form of communication, right? So that we could speak to people even in the absence of the work that we normally do, which is more manual, right?
Yeah.
So we introduced all the tech that was needed to do things around quality management, for instance, and teach them now, since we had the time, how to do it. Took the foreman that we had in our team, taught them how to use the computer so they can get to the stage where they can actually do project management.
Yeah.
So give them access to learning tools, right? So we did that as well. And then from the internet, on the external exposure, we started using social media, like you just said. So social media is important, and spreading a very good and positive message no matter what. Offering support. We are not motivational coaches, so we were not going to put out those kind of messages. But one thing we could do was talk more about our product, since we had the time, right? So now we could tell people a little bit more about this product that we normally just place and then we plaster it and no one gets to see it. So we got the opportunity to do that. And then finally, for our client base, so we have an existing client base, and we knew that they were going to go through a tough time. And many of the guys who were in these positions were also going to be fired at some point, or be part of a process that would phase them out. So before any of that could happen, we tried to bring some value to them, and that was, how could we discount some of these invoices even in this difficult time?
Sure.
How do we offer discounts, right? How do we do more for you while you are struggling to get this project to closure?
Okay.
Because even though the world is at a quarantine state, there's going to be a point where you're going to have to show your deliverable.
Yeah.
And so we made it easier for them as well. So that's some of the processes that we put in place under the people part. And there's many others in terms of our product. I can tell you about our product. So we had the time. So the one thing that we did was, a lot of people come to us and say, well, we like this product, but can you stack this on a 2-story level? Is it load bearing? And then we had to go and look, how do we make this product load bearing? Because we've got the time now, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We went through the process. We again looked at what we had in our blocks,
right?
How we manufactured it, and how do we get it to actually be approved so it can go into 2 stories. It could be load bearing. So we were able to do that now during this period.
Wow.
And then other things in terms of our implementation methods, our training methods. And so while we were doing this reinvention, a lot of our clients thought, well, maybe this is a great time to familiarize themselves with the product, because people want to go green.
Yes.
So now's the time when people are standing still and there's no projects, put them on training. And so we offered the training at no cost.
Okay.
And because of that, we got more projects, because now people are familiar with the product. So, so that's just some of the stuff that we did.
Okay. Yeah, really fascinating. I think I like the way that you spoke about staff, because I think the knee-jerk reaction during this time was kind of, let's reduce our overheads, and often staff is your biggest overhead, so let's cut staff. Without necessarily considering the social impact that has on their families, etc. So I really like your approach in terms of saying, how do we isolate our staff? Because we know that this is not going to be a long-term thing. At some point, we are going to need our people.
Yes.
So let's kind of introspect and see, how do we protect them, and from a psyche perspective.
Absolutely.
Let's make sure that they are not threatened by what is going to happen or likely to happen, and give them the confidence to say, let's continue. And I think that's a really great analogy that you used earlier on, kind of to ring fence your staff, because I think that was one of the first casualties, in a sense, to be able to cut staff. And it became such a difficult thing to manage during this time, just because of the downstream implication of that. I also like what you said just around the training, as well as socializing your products and services to your customers at no cost, and kind of subliminally, I guess, also using the internet to be able to facilitate that.
Yes.
While people are at home, just kind of start to get them educated a little bit, and to start thinking about things differently. And I think that's the we speak about customer centricity, and we speak about it quite broadly at times, but do we actually understand what it means? Because
True.
in as much as people were not engaging and contracting during this period, we still needed to maintain that relationship.
Okay.
So I just wanted to get your perspective around that. What was your approach to still engage with your customers during this time? Because they may not have been proactively engaging you, but for you to remain relevant to them, you still needed to keep that relationship warm. Because at some point, there would have been a specific need, and you would have wanted to be top of mind. So yes, I saw this. I saw this email that Arthur sent. Maybe it's the right time to implement this.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that is the frustration with small businesses, because you may pitch or tender for an opportunity, you are not successful with that particular client, and then you hold back. Because you felt that I didn't get the opportunity, so I'm not going to be considered. I think it's a great lesson to be able to say, how do you still maintain that relationship, even though from afar, and still to be able to keep in contact, because one would never know when you suddenly become relevant.
I love that question, because I think the one thing that people in business school, you're taught the ABCs and always be selling, right? You got to be in the front of the face of the customer. And you got to be so pervasive. But the truth is, it's really the other way around. So what we did was we were more empathetic towards our clients and what they were going through. So instead of trying to position your product in their face all the time, ask them how they're doing. How's the family doing, for instance? Check in on your client during a difficult time. Don't try to pass through the discount. Because that's what people typically do. So we took that stance where we just checked in with our clients. We still did it on a social media format, as you could see, and then you'll see a link to some news. Because sometimes when you're sitting there and you're stuck with all these Zoom calls, we do go out into the other window and just see what's happening, right? What's happening in industry. And you do want to read up on other things that might improve your opportunity, maybe if you lose this job. Or if you get onto the next level, what will help you, right? So people do a little bit of research. And so we took that stance instead of just trying to sell all the time. We thought, let's just look at what our clients are going through and just share with them what we are going through, as well as how can we assist them. And let me tell you that the callbacks were much better when everybody started coming out. Like you said, at some point something clicked. And then everybody's like, oh, cool, I can take my mask off for a little bit, right? And then in doing that, people were able to have conversations with us. And that's really what we want with our clients. It's conversation. It's not a typical sales call. And so you see that the way we have grown our business is more selling vertically into the same space. We have not gone wide and tried to sell this to everybody under the sun. We've tried to make sure that the clients that we do have, they recognize what we have and they're able to use it in other spaces too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Vera, from your side, what was your experience with some of your customers?
I think what's interesting, and it's so funny because we are both in the green economy, the green space, and green is all about human centricity. Always about that. So random example, when you're building a city that is green, if we had to be humans or have human centricity, we would have understood the context of South Africa, understood the context of social economic. We build our cities which are very car focused as opposed to human focused. There's so many, like, it's all about roads. It's about how can you get from point A to point B using a road, as opposed to looking at other forms of transport, because other forms of transport would be able to get more people on the road to get to economic activities. So we're always thinking human centricity. And so in terms of us, how we were able to do it is it's so funny because it's exactly what Arthur had said. It's asking people, how are you? And waiting for a response and actually like having that empathy, because as much as the planet breathes, humanity breathes as well. Suddenly we understood our humanity. At any point, anything could happen. So you don't want to go there and say, so green design is selling. No, it's actually, you want to go to them and say, how are you doing during this time? How's it going? Your projects that are on hold, how's that going? Like, how is everything just going? And I think that building those relationships during that time is the reason why when things clicked, those clients or potential clients started to come back to us now. Because it was that person who, at the beginning, like one of our clients that we had, she was one of the first people I thought of because all her deliverables, all her KPIs about putting solar panels on the rooftops. And now suddenly it's lockdown. And so she was one of the first people that I would constantly speak to. And I know that she loves research. So during this time, she was doing research. So I'd answer phone calls, speak to her around all of that. When the project came back online, it was just like, now suddenly it's friends. It's like, it's not just a client relationship anymore. They become friends with you. So that was really something that was great. And then obviously there was the Property Point Green Economy program, so the green building
Yay.
program. And what I loved about that is that now suddenly it was 34 businesses that we were having a conversation with around
Yeah.
green. This was an opportunity for them to start implementing some of these really great things.
Yeah.
So really, I think with 4 points, I think when the president was speaking, he said about 4.6 million people have been unemployed.
Yeah.
This is where the green economy needs to rise. Because the green economy is a strategy to grow this economy. It's not a sector. It's across every single sector is the green economy. And this is the moment for that to rise. And I think that that's really what we did is we were just like, how can we now be part of the solution?
Yeah.
We've always been sidelined. As greenies, we've always been sidelined. And suddenly, like, there was such a focus on climate justice, on social justice, on all of these things that I think that, all of us greenies are just really a little bit soft because we're human centric. But like we finally now, it was, I think, natural for us in terms of being able to just navigate our clients in this moment.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
think it certainly created more of an enabling environment. And I think, as you said, and this is the way we should be conducting business, right? From a human-centered approach, understanding the needs of our clients. Yes, we may not be able to make that sale on day one, but potentially circumstances may change, and we also always need to keep close to what's happening.
Exactly.
And I think that's really great insight to any entrepreneur that's watching us today. Is it's so simple yet complex to maintain relationships, to be able to show the concern, and the word that we've been using is empathy.
Yeah.
And I think it was a time where we really needed to focus on the individuals first and the human first, and get a sense of how they are coping, in the context of their business and their KPIs and their responsibilities. But at the same time, from a business owner perspective, looking for those little nuggets of problems and issues that we could suddenly identify and potentially go back and say, how do I become a solution, or how do I put forward a solution to this problem, so that I'm able to make that customer a little bit easier around this particular aspect that they may be grappling with. So I think it's such a simple yet complex issue that as entrepreneurs, I think sometimes we fail to think about. It's always about going out, making the sales, the hard slog, and I think if anything, it's kind of brought us back to that empathetic outlook. Let's not forget about those basic interactions, because ultimately that is what's going to hold us in good stead as we move forward.
Exactly.
So I think I want to shift the conversation now, guys, to kind of out of the challenges that we face, but what are some of the opportunities that we should be looking forward to in the green space? I think, Vera, you've spoken a lot about this, and you speak from a South African context, but also from a global context around green, just given all your affiliations. So for some of the entrepreneurs that are listening to us today, what are the opportunities going forward? Where should they be thinking about their business as we move forward into 2021 and beyond?
So in the green space, and I'll speak from a design and consulting perspective, and I'm sure Arthur will speak from a different perspective as well. But from a green space, it's really understanding the World Green Building Council has got 3 different goals, and that is decarbonization. It's a big push. It's part of the Paris Agreement. It's looking at health and well-being, because now we suddenly care about a healthy building, not just a green building.
Yes.
Because in the past it was about solar panels, now it's about, am I breathing good air? And then the last one is just circularity. So that nothing is wasted. Every single output is another input in some other form or another. So that's really what we're looking
economy,
at.
Right?
Exactly. So the circular economy and moving away from this concept, because we realized during the season you didn't have to buy fashion every season. Like that's not a real thing. We don't have to be doing these kind of stuff. So it's just looking at things like, how do we become more circular in that perspective?
Okay.
Cool.
I think from a manufacturer's perspective, we're looking at it from move beyond the doing more with less, but do more with what we have, right?
Yeah.
And I think that with what all these things that are happening, we're starting to see that there is a movement towards using waste streams as an opportunity to include people in the economy. And Viola said it so beautifully, that is where the jobs lie. Doing the same thing over and over is not going to help. We have to move over. We have to look at it laterally and try to solve some of these issues. For us, in terms of opportunity, because we're in this little greeny economy, I see different opportunities all over and they keep popping up. So the only thing that we needed to change as a business was to just listen more. Because when you listen more, you get to hear more about what people want. Because you build business on what your client wants and not what you think you can sell them. So I just think that the year 2020 to 2021, moving forward, I think we're going to have a wonderful year ahead. And thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. I think we've come to the end of our conversation. I think we could go on and on,
Yes.
speaking about all these great aspects and how the world is changing, and we need to be adapting to that. So thank you for your time once again, joining us on Entrepreneurship to the Point. For everyone that's been joining us today on the live stream on Facebook, thank you so much for your time. We really hope this conversation has really informed, equipped, and inspired you to look at the situation really as an opportunity to redefine your business, to look at opportunities in the economy wherever you are in the world. Green is here to stay. Sustainability is here to stay. The Sustainable Development Goals still need to be met. I think there's still a lot of work to be done. So as we head towards 2030 and these various time periods, let's focus on these important aspects. And I think as my guests today articulated, let's have that level of empathy and let's speak more to our customers and let's have a human-centric approach to whatever we need to do. And that's, I think, one of the fundamental ways in which we will start to grow businesses and start to grow entrepreneurs who are really responsive to issues and challenges that we face in society. So on behalf of Entrepreneurship to the Point and my amazing team who is behind the camera, you can't see them, but they're there, believe me. Thanks to everyone today for making this happen. And all the best from sunny South Africa.